What a time of the year, and I will say this. Wells Fargo will be an interesting barn tonight. We started off, though. Big Sills! How you doing? What an epic show yesterday. Oh, by the way, do me a favor. We got to it a little bit too late. We got a running goal here that we're going to try to do. We ended up with over 200 likes for the program. Damn, that thing we did with the other two dudes, man, Mark Holmes and Philly 500, got over near 700. You guys were awesome on that, but we're looking for 200 likes. Let's start it out there. 200 for the show by the end of the program. Please do me a favor, hit the like button. Thank you guys so much. I know you have so many other options. You do. You have a ton of options. And I'm going to start this out by doing this. Philly fans, I know you're probably going to be shocked. I feel for you. I feel for you. And now I know why you're always pissed off. You know why you're always pissed off? Because you have to deal with two of the most obnoxious and delusional fan bases in American sports. The Dallas Cowboys and the New York Knicks. You would swear that Walt Frazier still plays point guard for the Knicks. Dude, the guy hasn't been in the building since the 70s. I mean, Dave DeBuscher and Bill Bradley are not coming out of that barn anytime soon. They're not good. You haven't been good in 30 years since Patrick Ewing. But Knicks fans are now going to invade Wells Fargo tonight. And they're going to be here in the city in Philadelphia. And they're going to elbow their way around Philly. Hit the damn like button. 200 likes. Let's freaking go. Thank you, Marshall. Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the super chat, too. Damn. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. And Crowley, I get it. It is embarrassing, but blame your carpetbagger owner for not making those tickets more available to Philadelphia and local fans and selling them. That's the way he is, man. He's a businessman. He's not. Get this. Josh Harris is a great businessman. You know what he's not? A Philadelphian. And I don't think you have to be from Philly to at least understand you got to cater to the fans. You got to cater to the fans. Because the fans in that city, they elevate the players, the awareness, the like, all of that. One thing I agree with all of you in Philadelphia. Dude, I mean, dealing with Cowboy and Knicks fans, I don't know who is I don't know who's more obnoxious. Eagles will be a bottom 5 run defense. I don't know about run defense. I'm still questioned when it comes to their pass defense. Okay? Still questionable. So we'll see tonight what happens in that barn known as Wells Fargo here in Philly. All right. Let me put this out to you here. Your boy, Roseman and Associates, has spent $500 million this offseason. Roseman and Associates put up $464 million in contracts. Damn! Woo! That's how you put your money up and push all in. Hey, Jerry, that's all in, my friend. You know what all in is? Howie's sitting there rolling the dice. He's sitting there at AC going like this. How you doing? Let's go. Let it ride. Howie's letting it ride. $464 million homie has spent. Okay? That's a great question, JM. Is there another general manager in the league with that latitude that Howie has? You know what? JM, I think the Rams do. I think Les Snead and Kevin Demoff, anytime they need something, they trade draft picks and they put the money up. I would say the Rams. Cowboys ain't spending shit right now. Okay? They're not spending anything. Let's see. Do the Giants? The Giants really don't spend any money. I mean, the Maras and the Tishes don't spend a ton of money. The Steelers, for the first time, dropped a bag of money on Patrick Queen. What other organization spends? 49ers are spending some ducks. But the Rams and the Eagles, in my opinion, are the teams that spend a boatload. You know, New England, Bob Kraft will spend. Bob Kraft will spend some dough. They'll go out in free agency and spend some money. Okay, I mean, dude, I got to tell you, and the way that Howie constructs the deals, we'll look at those cap hits. And for the record, let me do that right here before we get to the topics here. I mean, Browns cap hits, 5.15, 10.9 in the second year, 16.7 in the third year, 20 in the fourth year, 20.7, 27.6 and 5, and in 6, 29.3. So he back-ended it with 53 in dead cap money. Dude, that's brilliant. This is where, when I tell LJ that guy deserves a raise, he keeps his job not because he's a personnel guy. He keeps his job because he's the best cap management, and he's also the best contract negotiator, and putting a contract together and the blueprint of one for a player that I think anybody in the league. By the way, for the record too, we are going to have Phil Simms at 5:30. I'll ask Phil that question. I think Roseman is, man. Again, personnel-wise, my questions are always there. But when it comes to him being a cap manager and also constructing contracts, I don't really think there's anybody better out there than Howie Roseman. All right. We're going to do something fun today. My preseason top 32 NFL quarterbacks. I also had a conversation with 4 scouts last night. And I'm going to make the comment. Funny you should say that, 304. I personally think that Vic Fangio is the wrong defensive coordinator for the Eagles. And I'll explain as we move on with the show here. But I want to do something here. These are not my takes. And, you know, one thing that I should say, and I don't think Dan Morgan would have a problem. I talked to Dan Morgan, Alonzo Highsmith, Tom Telesco, Carl Dunbar, D-line coach of the Steelers. I talked to Alfredo Roberts from the Steelers. And I talked to, which I won't say, well, I will, Bruce Arians with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jason Light, the general manager. Those guys are all my friends, and those guys have all been on the program. So you know we're not making it up. They've all been here. They have all come on the program. So I asked just Cliff Note questions about the Eagles draft. And by the way, you could tell one guy loved a guy, one guy hated a guy. And it's interesting to get a different perspective. I'm just sitting here and listening to me. I'm not a professional scout. Those guys are. And general managers. Tom runs the Raiders now. I think he was on the program. Dick Xander put him on the program when he was the GM of the Chargers. So when you hear these guys talking about these players, one guy loves them, one guy doesn't. And I think that's why you get a difference in draft boards sometimes when it comes to respected teams. So here's what scouts said about your football players that were drafted by Howie Roseman. Thought it was interesting. Quinion Mitchell, cornerback Toledo. Had 4 intercepted passes in a game this past year. One of the scouts said, I'd give it higher grades and I'd be more impressed if it was against Alabama and not Northern Illinois. And it came up to be a topic of conversation with the guy. His talent was way better than the Mid-America Conference, the MAC. And that was the biggest question mark on him, was the people he played at and played against. Senior Bowl, he looked ordinary to some scouts. I didn't think he looked ordinary. That was just my observation. But they watched him in like practices and lining up against some of the better wide receivers in the country. He looked ordinary. So, again, these are just, I named you the scouts and I gave you names. He tested exceptionally well, like highest in his class. I mean, he tested exceptionally well, all the skill set things. And a lot of the scouts were exceptionally impressed with him, with how he tested, especially at the combines and also at his pro day. Marvin Harrison did have a touchdown in that game against Toledo, and it was a 77-20 ass beating. However, that's not an indictment on Mitchell that his team wasn't as good as Ohio State. How many teams are as good as Ohio State? So that's not an indictment on him that they got rolled. But at the end of the day here, the Toledo players just weren't in the Ohio State conversation when it came to being a competitive team. So that's not really an indictment on him. You know what some scouts said about him? Here, and I'll tell you what Alonzo said about him. He looked like a mature Sauce Gardner. So as you can tell here, look at this. Senior Bowl, a scout told me he looked ordinary. Tested exceptionally well. When you watched him in doing all the drills and such, he was exceptional. He said, man, Marvin Harrison had a great game on him. I didn't really think it was a great game. I thought it was a good game for Harrison. And Alonzo and all the people were saying, well, he looks like a mature Sauce Gardner. I think that's a compliment. That's a compliment. These are what scouts are saying about your draft, not me. I asked an array of people questions, okay, about some of your guys that were drafted this past weekend. Cooper DeJean is an interesting study here and how people saw him. I'd say 90% of the people are saying this that were scouts. He's a safety. He's not a corner. He's not a corner. Even with the 4.45 speed, he's not a corner. Now, I don't know if he's not going to play. I'm telling you what folks are saying here that are scouts in the league. Now, again, like I said, the Vikings might love him. The Bucs may hate him. The Patriots may love him. And the Rams may kind of be okay on him. So relax. Don't get bent out of shape on it. Let's see him play. I want to see him play. Okay? Here's something. Why do you think that Cooper DeJean, why do you think he was really intriguing to Vic Fangio and to Howie Roseman? Why do you think he was an exceptionally a draw to them, and why they couldn't wait for the next day in the draft to get the kid? What do you think? That's pretty much right, LJ. That's what a lot of people said about him. And I'm going to get to that's a really good take because a lot of the scouts said the same thing that LJ's saying right there. Put LJ up there. DeJean is a Swiss Army knife back there. And he's right. Now, get this. What do you think? Athletic Kyle, listen to this. They played a zone cover defense. That's what you play. You're not a man defense. Contain. You're trying to contain things. Control and contain. That's the defense he plays. So he played in a zone defense. It's got to be attractive to the Eagles. Actually, he fits what they want. So you got to like to pick even more now. The skill set the kid has exactly is the skill set they're looking for to plug and play. That's key to me. He may get on the field quicker. He's a natural athlete. To what LJ just said, he did a lot of shit back there for them. Versatility, and he kind of reminds me of Justin Simmons. Yeah, like that. Like that. He did a ton of shit. Now, here's where there's some criticism. A lot of the scouts, no, not a lot. Half the scouts think he doesn't have the hip turn to play on the numbers. And that's why that's right, LJ. He's kind of a lot like Gardner Johnson. There's a little bit of Gardner Johnson in him. Again, and when you talk to like a Jason Light loved him. General manager of the Bucks loved him. Said the guy is, he got pushed. Remember this too. He got put. I like that too, Bobby. I think he is a slot corner. I think he's a slot corner. And let's be candid here. How many years do you really think that Gardner Johnson has on the Eagles with the way he acts and the way he talks and all that other bullshit? You know what I'm saying? Plus, if I can get him out of there and put him in the slot and get Gardner Johnson's $8 million off my books, I'm going to do it. Gardner Johnson, in my opinion, for me, I put him in Gardner Johnson's spot, and if he can cover it, I'm getting rid of him next year. I have no interest in keeping him. Not at $8 million or $6 million, whatever the frig they're paying him. If I can get the same production using him in the slot, I'm going to put him in the slot. Second round draft choice, cheaper and more of an upside. JM, that's also a great take. I can't wait to see Gardner Johnson and Vic Fangio butting heads. If Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard were butting heads with Vic, what do you think Gardner Johnson's going to do? That's going to be interesting to watch as well. Okay? That's going to be interesting. Let's see here. CJ will probably make most of his reps at safety if DeJean can play slot. I don't think Gardner Johnson's a very good corner, and nor did New Orleans, and nor did Philly. They played him in the slot corner, and they put him in the slot. I don't think you could put him on the numbers. I don't think he's that good on the numbers. Let me continue here. He can't defend really that great on the outside. And that is on the numbers. This is why people, not all, majority of the people, because I don't want to pin him in as a safety yet. I want to see him in action at safety and at corner. I think it's pretty cool that you could potentially have a guy who could play two positions for you and give you pretty – how about this? Do I think he's better than Reed Blankenship right now, the only thing Blankenship has on him right now is experience. But as an athlete and as a skill set guy, not close. Like Reed Blankenship is a cheap man's version of what this kid can be. Okay? I mean, Seals, most players drafted claim they'll do whatever the team needs them to do so they win. DeJean can actually back it up because he has. And I love I tell you what, the one thing that you get with DeJean is that he plays in a zone defense. Okay? That he plays in that zone, which means he's going to understand terminology and technique. And that's not going to be the only thing he'll need to get up to speed on is game tempo. Because I promise you, it's completely different from the college game to the pro game and game tempo. And everyone's great. You know, it's funny. I remember when I first came into the league, and I had this stupid notion that when you played the Packers, who weren't very good back in the day, and you played them, well, they're not a very good team. You get on the field with them, and you play the 49ers, the only difference is 3 players. And you're like, wow, everyone's great. Even the shitty teams. These guys are good, quick, and fast. And your strength and your speed have nothing to do with it because everybody's strong. Everybody's fast. It's really about experience and technique and having those game reps. Okay? Both DBs came from zone schemes. Prince, I didn't realize how important that was when you started talking to the scouts. And the first thing they said, the same thing you just said. Well, the 2 guys, Mitchell and DeJean, were all in zone schemes. That's why they took them. Okay. Well, that makes sense too. That's even better for Howie in his drafting. CD would go for 200 yards and 2 TDs on DeJean. Maybe. Okay. Maybe and probably. Are you under the impression, 304, that rookie corners, unless you're Deion Sanders, don't get beat? That's the hardest position in football to play. Why is it the hardest position in football to play? You guys know why? You're running backwards. You play the game backwards. You're running backwards. Turn at the last second. Try doing that. Defensive tackle doesn't play backpedaling. Linebackers, to an extent, but you're going down the field with world-class sprinters like Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson. I mean, when these guys get an off-the-ball start at you, it's the toughest position in pro football. It's the reason why there's a $20 million franchise tag on that position. There's a reason for that. We do have too many cornerbacks. You can't have enough, especially if you're going to be in nickel. So, I think you're going to see the kid play a lot in the safety position. Now, you know, I've been giving this pick here a ton of shit. I'm not a fan of the pick, and you know that. It's the Jalyx Hunt pick, edge. I didn't know the background on the kid, though. Houston Christian. I didn't know he spent 3 years at Cornell. He's an Ivy League kid. He's an athlete. Scouts were saying he's interesting. And get this, you know what Tom Telesco said about him? You see why you draft him. You're drafting him on theory. Because when you watch him work out, you see the intangibles that may translate to the NFL. Another guy said he's interesting. Okay? So it's not a pick on production. Here, he only had 9.5 sacks in some shitty league. The Eagles, this is what a scout said. The Eagles took him on traits, not on production. They took him on traits. That's risky. You're assuming. No, JM. Ask a great question. Did anyone dump on him? No, because you know why? They could. This is what, even with the competition he played, he tested out so well at the traits of the position that's being formed in the league today. That's right, Flex. This is an assumption pick. They're assuming all those traits that they see in him are going to translate into him being a big-time player. Do you know the name they were throwing out? DeMarcus Ware. Something like that. And I was like, wow. DeMarcus Ware? And they're like, you see the same skill set as DeMarcus Ware. Now, that would be incredible if they threw that out, and some guys were saying that. I'll tell you, Mike Lombardi loves him. Mike Lombardi, former general manager of the Patriots and the Browns, said the same thing. Okay? Well, wait a minute now. Flexing, if you show the same skill set and you have the traits, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to live up to DeMarcus Ware, but it is. It is. Marcus Ware, I think he went to Troy, if I'm not mistaken. So that was good. But again, remember something. He had 9 sacks. Not a ton of production. So you're not drafting this kid on anything he really's done in college. You're drafting him on what, and get this, people are going like this. It's a risky pick, but you're looking at assumptions. You know, I mean, you're looking at assumptions here. JM goes, what is most important is who's coaching him. I also happen to think the scheme he's in. What scheme you're in. And I do think Vic had a lot of influence in this, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I do think that he had a lot of influence on the type of personnel that they were looking for. I mean, he's got Reddick tendencies and assumptions. So you know what? Of all the players that I talked to, or scouts and GMs I talked to on your draft picks, no one hated it. No one hated it. They got why they did it. They said that they thought the pick was too high, some of them. Like, they thought 4th or 5th he would have went, not 3rd. So maybe Howie got ahead of that. We told you, well, I know I did, Sills, that he played safety at Cornell. Okay. Then changed the path. I believe you did say that. I did overlook that. I didn't realize he was an Ivy League kid. I didn't know he played there 3 years, but I did. Hey, Marshall. I mean, Ivy League, I don't know, competition. Shit, man. The place that he played at Houston Christian used to be Houston Baptist. Probably was a better competition than the Ivy League. So, I mean, so Sills, is College Keegan practiced against Aiden Hutchinson? Yeah, David Ajabo and Payne. Absolutely. Totally helped his skill set. If Vic blew so bad as a head coach, how can he be considered a great D coordinator? Well, I mean, look, nobody would ever say that, you know, you look at somebody like Wade Phillips and go, Wade's a great head coach. But what would you do? put in the room is that Wade is one of the top 10 coordinators in the last 25 years. Wade's a good coordinator. Wade is a good coordinator. But to sit there and say he's a great head coach, hey, I think that Frank Reich is a great coordinator and a great evaluator of talent. Is he a great head coach? Really hasn't panned that out yet, has it? And some would say, well, look at Josh McDaniel. He had Brady. True. But if you put a shitty coordinator with Brady, Brady's going to struggle. All of it has to work hand in hand. Okay? Seals, if you was the defensive coordinator, what defense will you and would you be your starters? Great question. We'll get to that here. I'll do that, Perez. Seals, Hunt was named the Southern Conference Defensive Player of the Year. I got it. An All-American. He rose to challenge after transfer was Player of the Year. Kid appears to have some grit. Bob, what they're saying is that you know what? Quite frankly, of all the draft picks you had, nobody hated the pick except how high he went. Nobody hated how high. They just were like, well, you kind of got why they did it. Because when you watch him work out and you see him and you see his physical and what he did traits, scouts are like this. I'm going to assume that's going to translate to today's NFL. So it's a better listening to those scouts instead of just me. Has it changed my opinion on him? It's still risky. Third round, I'm not doing that still. But I kind of got why they did it. Make sense? Third round's too high for me. I'm not doing anything on assumptions. I don't like that mentality. Nolan Smith was an assumption. Nakobe Dean has been an assumption. And those three guys have not performed anywhere near what they need to. I don't want assumptions. I want to know a guy's good. He's got a skill. And that skill, does it fit in my defense or not? Yes or no? Let's do Will Shipley. This is what they said about him at Clemson. He's got to work on his routes. He's not a great route runner yet. That'll hamper him on a very skilled wide receiver and pass-catching offense. You don't run a good route, Jalen's not going to find you. And nor is he going to throw to you. You got to work on that now. You're going to watch one of the best route runners in pro football with Devontae Smith. That's going to help him. That's going to help him. He runs with great strength. You know, for a guy his size, he's not afraid to sit there and, run hard and give you effort. Now, here's something that you got to think about when you're running with Will Shipley in your backfield. Clemson runs the stretch play. And he was formidable in the stretch play. So, I mean, if you're running wide sweeps and shit, this is kind of like your guy here when you're doing jet sweeps. And I agree with you, James. This is not a skill set that Jalen's really good at. And that is throwing to his backs. So I mean, here's something, too, that one scout noticed. This guy tries to avoid contact. And when the contact comes at him, he ducks. So you can't have any fear in that league. They'll take your head off. Okay? I mean, kid, got to man up in this league. This is a big boy league now. This ain't the ACC. Okay? Boston Scott opens up the door for Barkley, Gainville, and Shipley. They don't want a straight bruiser back. Kendall Milton, UDFA from Georgia. Like that kid too. Can't duck, son. Get your neck hurt. Anaya Smith. I didn't realize this. He was banged up the beginning of the season at A&M. And as the season went on in 23, he got healthier and healthier and healthier, and he got better and better and better. What does that mean? Well, in 2024, you may get the full version of Smith being healthy. He really didn't have a healthy year last year. So let's see this kid, if he is a guy that looks like Deebo Samuel. Punt return, kick return, number 3 receiver, run him on jet sweeps. Shit, run him out of the backfield. They did everything with him at A&M. Everything. Had that similar skill set of Deebo Samuel. Okay? Trevor Keegan. You know, I get asked the question, why did he drop in the draft? And I'll tell you exactly what Bruce Arians said. He's a prototype offensive lineman. A little too aggressive. Got to be patient more. But in any other year, he'd have gone in the second or third round. But because there were so many quality old linemen, do you know that the majority of the scouts said that at least 15 to 17 of the linemen that were drafted in the first 4 rounds are probably going to start somewhere? I think that's a COVID result. That guys had a chance to stay in college and get coached up better at better programs by better schools. I mean, any other year, Trevor Keegan goes in the second or third round. That's right, Steve. That's right. Aggressive is okay. I'd rather coach aggressive than have to coach a kid to be aggressive. So I'd rather do that than go, hey, kid, let's get tougher. Keegan's a great, real. I think he's a steal. I do. Any other year, he goes into second or third. Just so happens he comes out in one of the best draft classes for offensive linemen in 20 years. I mean, so you got a second or third round draft choice in next year's draft. This year in the 5th round. Here's what scouts say about Jeremiah Trotter. This is I'm probably going to get a text message from Joe Kraus and from everybody after this. This is not my takes. These are not my takes. He ran a 4.81 in his pro day. I ran a 4.81, but I was 290. He didn't run at the combines. Now I know why. He's slow. I mean, Jordan Davis is faster. He has no speed. He's just not a fast guy. I mean, Jordan Davis at 350 pounds is faster. Made a ton of plays at Clemson. Ton of plays. And again, he didn't run the 40 at the combines. Now we know why. He's not fast. He's slow. He's an effort guy. He's a total effort guy. Plays hard. Everything that you love in a kid. Let me tell you something. His last name is Trotter, and he's almost the same height. That's where it lays and stops. Doesn't go any further than that. So do not put the pressure on the kid to be Jeremiah Trotter Sr. And he doesn't have TJ Edwards' size. He is going to have a hard time handling 330-pound offensive linemen. Slow and small. Does not translate into 34. He's going to have a hard time. Size will be a factor for him. So, listen, at Clemson, he made a lot of plays. He was an effort guy. Big guys dominated him. He's not quick, but I'll tell you one thing that he does that I said this to someone. You know, you don't have to be the fastest guy on the planet playing inside. But what you do have to have is if you're not fast, you can't have false steps playing behind the ball. And the one thing that I do think he has the understanding and the knowledge that his dad has passed on to him. You can't have false steps when you're not fast. You see, a guy like Mitchell, if he makes a screw up, well, that guy runs 4.3, 4.4. He's going to make up for it in cover speed. He's going to make it up. Okay? He's not a 34 linebacker. So, Trotter will make the team because, as I said to you, it's a sentimental pick. Now, do I want a guy? Do I think he could be great in special teams? I do. He's a special teams player in the NFL. It's okay. Dude, you could play 11, 12 years in the NFL. Get some playing time, eventually get in there, have a couple years starting. Don't shit on that. I wouldn't. I'd love to have that. I'm just, as a frontline guy, he's not. He's not. Dean's better. Now, this is why he fell and why he didn't run at the combines. Everyone knew he was slow. Can you imagine the difference if he ran a 4.6 or 4.5? He's probably a second-round draft pick. He's going to pan out? Surely hope so. Okay, but this is what others that scout the league. And now, some liked him. He makes plays. Yeah, making plays against Wake Forest and making plays against the Cowboys are two different things. Flexing, go stop it, Sills. I'm not saying this. I'm just telling you what Jason Light said about him. And you could take his evaluation. Now, remember something. Jason Light's the same guy that drafted Devin White. So you could make that call too and go, what does he know about linebackers? But he does have a pretty good linebacking group right now in Tampa. You guys saw it in the playoff game. No, what? Trotter's making the team. No, Steve, he ran a 4.81 in his pro day. He's not a practice squad guy. They're going to put him on. No, he's not. I mean, Sills, is it possible to have a bad pro day and combine? Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Dude, just so you know, Denny, Jerry Rice ran a 4.8 on his pro day. No, excuse me. Jerry Rice ran a 4.9 on his pro day. Let me double check that. Let me check that. I want to double check that. What did Jerry Rice run in a 40-yard dash on his combines?
According to Fox 59, the 6 feet 3 inches Rice.
What did Jerry Rice run at his combine in college.
According to Sporting News,
he ran a 4.81 also. This is the best receiver in the history of the league. Flexen says he's better than DeJean. He didn't have a better college career than DeJean. It wasn't even close. So where are you making that from? He's better than DeJean. Are you trying to say that a guy who won the Butkus Award and was a 2-time All-SEC and an All-American and Trotter was better? He didn't have a better career than Nakobe Dean. He did not. So I don't know what you're basing it on. You're basing it on his last name. And someone goes like this. Stevens goes, Flexen goes, who cares about college? Well, that's how you're evaluating these kids, son, is on their college tape, their combine, and their pro day and their interview. It's part of the evaluation. Who cares? It's how you get paid in the draft. Sills, Trotter appeared to play faster than that. When I watched the Tiger games, kid was always around the ball and not the last one there because he's got great footwork. This year will make or break for Dean. He's out of chances after this. Correct. And they've already started the process of moving on. And Dean killed it at Georgia. He did. And I thought that Trotter was up and down. I thought he had a couple good years there, but not a spectacular. He's not a spectacular player. He's a solid player. Is he worthy of pro potential opportunity at the Philadelphia Eagles? Yes. No one's dismissing that. He got drafted. I don't give a shit what round he got drafted in. If you get drafted, even some of these UDFAs, if teams sign you, bring you in, make you part of their, do you know what's more important, being drafted or being part of the 90-man roster going to camp? Ask yourself that. Wouldn't you rather be part of an opportunity to make a team or being drafted? Hey, put me on that 90-man roster. At least I get swings. Feet more important than 40 time? It's a great take, Steve. Yes. Yes. Yes, Steve. Guy runs a 4.5. Look, here's a perfect example. Devin White runs like a 4.5, 4.6, 4.4, 4.5 something. And the Bucks basically cut him. I mean, he had all the intangibles. His second year, he was great. After that, it never looked like that again. Once again, flexing with the nobody cares about college. Well, that's how you get, hey, Caleb Williams got drafted number 1 overall, not because of his painted fingernails, because of what he did in football games. You think you get drafted off of combines? Come on, guy. It's a dumb take. That's how you put these guys in order. And that's how you evaluate. Surely game tape matters. See, to Flexen, game tape doesn't matter to him. He thinks that if you look good at the gym and you're on a beach towel, you draft the guy. So what? He had a great tape in college. To him, it doesn't matter. If you look good on a beach towel, Twiz is going to draft you. I'd rather take a look at a guy that looks great on a beach towel than a guy who looks good on his tape. That's his take. That's your take. Isn't that what you liked with DeJean Sills? Anticipating the play before the play? Yeah, but here's the thing, Hutch. When you're talking about a guy like DeJean, he runs a 4.4, not a 4.81. He runs a 4.4. I mean, he's speed. He anticipates. He's not a corner. He's not a corner, but he played in a zone. So he's going to know what Fangio's asking him to do. Okay? Let's go to Johnny Wilson. It's a project here. Not super hands, but physical. Practice squad guy, something like that. Give him some reps. Have Jalen throw him the ball. See what he does after the catch. Did some good things at Florida State. Mike Norville liked the kid a lot. A lot of people did. But the drops killed him. So, I mean, kind of killed him a little bit. So, overall, actually, the guy, Jalyx Hunt, Ivy League kid, athletic. I didn't talk to a scout that hated the kid. I talked to some people that did not like Shipley at all, that did not like Trotter at all. Not all hated him. Pretty much everyone was looking. You know the biggest comment that they had about Mitchell, who he played on, and when he was at the Senior Bowl, he looked ordinary. That wasn't my takeaway. I watched those practices, and I didn't think he looked ordinary. But the Monday through Friday says he looked ordinary. And I was like, okay. Lonzo said, you put him up against some of the better wide receivers in the NFL or college football, he looked common. You put him up against Justin Jefferson, that's going to be a different conversation. And for him, that could be an issue. And those 4 interceptions, he goes, he had a great 4 interception game. Well, it was Northern Illinois and not Georgia. 82 likes. Let's get to 200. Hey, I appreciate, guys, do me a favor. Please, let's get to 200, man. Guys, I really appreciate it. We ended up with 200 yesterday. But if we can get this thing to 200, I'd like to get us around that 200 number if we can. Thank you guys so much. You guys are great. By the way, I don't really think these are awful. You know, I mean, some people go like this. He tested exceptionally well. He tested exceptionally well. And he's a mature. Somebody goes, because of his age? No. He looks like a more skill set, mature. When somebody says that an athlete looks like a mature Sauce Gardner, it's not because he's older. It's because his game looks more refined. Now, that could be a product of where he's playing. Okay? Stevens goes, you want to bet about Mitchell? I think Mitchell is a big gamble. Stevens, who have you ever drafted at corner that's been great in the last 25 years? Who? At the biggest failure position in the draft at 64% is cornerback. Before you make that, Lito Shepherd, what year was Lito Shepherd drafted? What year was he drafted? Sheldon Brown? What year was Lito Shepherd drafted? 2002. Okay. So in the last 23 years, you haven't drafted anybody since Lito Shepherd. All right. Howie's not. Howie didn't make those picks back in 2000. That's Andy Reid and Joe Banner. Okay. There's that Dick J. Brown or J. Balls. Jay Balls, because I get asked the same question, dickbag. That's what I get asked from different people. Relax, kid. You don't like it, leave. No one's telling you to stay, J-Bag. no one. And Jay goes, Sills lives in the past. What past? Your past is your future, especially when it comes to drafting. I think the DeJean thing is interesting. He's a safety. By the way, these aren't my evaluations. These are professional scouts. And see, unlike the other guys that talk to you, I actually put names on people I speak to, like Telesco and all these other guys. Okay? I mean, I don't. Well, talking to one of the Eagle Scouts, who? So I think Mitchell has a higher ceiling, while DeJean has a higher floor. They could be great 1-2 punch for the next 10 years, 8 to 10 years. Sills, how about you break down some film and show us your take on what you saw with our draftees? I did that on Monday. Here. That's a great transition. I just gave you what the scouts said about him. Here was my take. Let's go back and take a look if it matched up. I like that, right, Xander? Here's my takes versus the scouts. Yeah. I had Quinton Mitchell, the 7th best prospect in the draft because of his athleticism. And everyone else said he was the top corner in the draft also. Them getting him at 22, many thought he would go in the top 15, higher towards the top 10. I wrote down that I think that the kid had really exceptional speed. He was an athlete. He was a Gumby. He was big. He tested exceptional. That's pretty much what everyone said about him, that he tested exceptional. Now, I am different. I saw him at the combine, not the combine, but at the Senior Bowl. I thought he played well in that game. They're saying he was at the Senior Bowl. He looked ordinary. They must be talking more about practice and his practices, because it was two-a-days. When you go to the Senior Bowl, it's more two-a-days. Okay? Yes, it is. I watched all these guys have a highlight reel. Prince doesn't know what he's talking about. Everyone's got a highlight reel now. And what a lot of agencies do, they put out highlight reels on potential prospects that are going to go into the NFL draft. And all you have to do also is go to NFL.com. And what they have is little snippets of players on what they did a year ago and draft analysis by people from NFL.com. It's very simple. All you have to do is Google it. No, you don't. Stop it. Why wouldn't you? Oh, it's there for everybody. It's not hard to access. Okay? Hey, I like how some of you just come in here just to, I don't know. I mean, I don't even think you're listening to what I'm saying, so that's fine. If you want to come in here and just, stand on a hill here and wait for me to acknowledge you, I could do that some other time. We'll set up another show for that. But that's not what, I mean, I'm actually getting tired of that. I'm going to stop doing that because I'm not doing that anymore. My time is worth more to me than sitting here and acknowledging JB sitting in his old lady's basement with no drawers on and flip-flops. You know what I mean? And he's got a Raggedy Ann doll in his hand. It's good. It's good. This is what I wrote about DeJean. I think he's to what LJ said, I think he's like a Swiss Army kind of guy. You could put him in special teams. He's a muscular kid. He's smart. He's more of a safety. You could put him in punt return. He's fast as hell. All that. Sills, you know you like a good pair of flip-flops. I do. I won't lie. Okay. I do. Whitehead Reed? Not quite. Come on, Denny. Okay, come on now. I'm not a fan of Jalyx Hunt, but everybody I talk to is. Everybody I talk to is. So it looks like I'm the only one on an island here with that. Okay? LJ defended Sileo? Hold on. Wait, sorry, I got to stop the show. May 2nd. May 2nd, LJ defended Big Sills. Sorry, LJ, hang on. Hold on. I gotta write that down. LJ defended Big Sills. May 2nd. Let me put that in parentheses. And I'm going to remind him of it. Hey, you did defend me. He's throwing up in his hat. He's throwing up in his mask. I don't blame him. Me having to defend Jalen Hurts yesterday versus that Dak Prescott almost made me throw up. Sills, did you see the restaurant video that posted yesterday of David Tepper, owner of the Panthers, complaining about their sign calling mixed? You were out on Aeneas until Carver turned you around. Scouts like the kid. They said he got better as the season went on. Okay, Dean physically looks the same. It looks like he hasn't put on any weight or muscle. Should we be concerned? Christopher's asked if we should be concerned about Nakobe Dean. Seals, you would hate on Eagle picks regardless of who they picked. What did I hate on? I hated on a guy from that you drafted too high in the 3rd round. I don't hate your picks. I think you had the best draft of any team in the NFC East. Never said that. Okay? It's the new meth he's smoking. Wow. Did David lose any weight? Doubtful. How do you feel about UDA? I'll have to look more at Gabe Hall. How often does Sileo have the right call? Well, Dean sucked. You wouldn't make the NFC Championship game. The year before that, I predicted you go to the Super Bowl. I said your defense would implode, and it did. Jalen Hurts would have a step-back year. He did. He'd never throw for $4,000. He didn't. He'd never throw for 30 touchdowns. He didn't. I mean, not sure what you're talking about, kid. How often was I right? I told you Jordan Davis is a 1st and 2nd down player, not a 3rd down player. Never has been. I told you your coordinators that you guys were talking about. Remember, Xander, remember what people were saying? Sills, he's Jalen's best friend. And I was like, what's that got to do with anything? I don't want my best friend, Jim Colford, I don't want my best friend being my D coordinator. I don't want him being my best friend because I play Tonka toys with him. I said that they would improve by week 8, but I said it would be slow. I did. Then it imploded because your linebacker play. Liar. Yeah? Well, I wasn't lying about your boy Hurts. I wasn't lying about your boy Hurts. Crash and burn, crash and burn. It's like Steve Austin, a $6 million man. We can rebuild them. We're hiring Kellen Moore. I hated that yesterday, that I had to sit there and listen. And I had, because I don't like the 2 coordinator hires, but we'll see in September. We'll see. Now that leads me to my next topic. How many people like the Vic Fangio hiring as D coordinator? How many people like it? Your brand new defensive coordinator. Steve goes, I do. Steve, why? He's solid. Prince is, I hate the scheme. I do. We need stability and experience. It is a good take. Can't be any worse. I don't like either hiring. Too early to tell in May. Actually, I'm not even asking about results yet. I'm asking about his scheme and the personnel you have, more so than anything. Why would he come in and change up? So let me ask you this. Let's do a smart thing here. Where have they spent their highest draft choices at on defense? What was Josh Sweat? 4th round? Was Sweat a 4th rounder? Was Sweat a 4th rounder? Well, wait a minute. No, you haven't drafted anything of any significance compared to the defensive line. You're talking about the 9th pick and 13th pick versus the 22nd and 40th. What are you talking about? It's a drastic difference. A top 10 kid versus a 22nd player taken. This guy was drafted down near Nolan Smith. It's not the secondary. So Josh Sweat, 4th round, 5th round. First round, Jordan Davis. First round, Jalen Carter. First round, Nolan Smith. I like it. Culture change was needed. I think Fangio installs that. Wrong system. Even Brandon Graham's still on the team, 1st rounder. So you have 1 4th rounder and 4 1st rounders in your defensive line. Let's take a look at your linebackers and what you've drafted. Jacoby Dean, 3rd. Who else? You have no equity in your linebacker core. Let's take a look at your secondary. Who have you drafted at safety? Reed Blankenship's a free agent. Sidney Brown? Who else? You drafted a corner now, 22, and you got a guy who I don't think is a corner, but let's put him there, 40. Trotter, 5th. So you got a 3rd and a 5th rounder in your inside linebackers that you drafted. And in your defensive line, you've got a 4th and 4 1s. Why are you going to a 34? Your better players are in your front, not in your linebacking. And you're undersized. Why would this guy put a scheme together when you don't have the people yet? Help me make that. You know what they said about, get this. So a guy like Trotter is going to struggle with a 330-pound